Outside the courthouse here in L.A. every single day between Michael Jackson's diehard fans and supporters of Dr. Conrad Murray. Meantime, inside the courtroom, the prosecution's star witness, Dr. Stephen Schaefer, took apart piece by piece any claims that Michael Jackson swallowed propofol, ingested lorazepam in pill form, and or injected propofol into himself when Dr. Conrad Murray wasn't looking. And this expert witness for the prosecution also demonstrated for jurors Dr. Murray's crude, jerry-rigged IV system that he was using on the King of Pop. It's a shocker. Look at this.
This is the injection port. This attaches to the IV catheter, in this case just below the left knee. So this attaches to the catheter, and this is where the injections of drugs would be made.
Most damning testimony that when Dr. Schaefer, he described Jackson's final seconds on Earth, when Michael Jackson was no longer breathing and his heart had stopped, and why so much propofol was found in his system at the autopsy. Listen to this.
And with the ending of circulation, Michael Jackson has died, but he's died with the infusion running.
Tonight, an Issues exclusive, Scott Ross, my dear friend and private eye to the stars. Scott Ross was part of the defense team for the Michael Jackson child molestation trial back in 2005 when Michael Jackson was found not guilty of child molestation. And that's where Scott and I became friends because I covered that case. And Scott was also part of the team that got actor Robert Blake acquitted of murder. 2 high-profile trials, 2 acquittals. You've got a great track record. And Scott's also taking some of your calls. 1-877-JVM says. All right, Scott, I found it interesting that you think that this case is stacked against Dr. Conrad Murray, stacked for the prosecution?
I think it's completely stacked against him. First of all, one of the issues, the way I watch it from an investigative standpoint. And from my perspective, you know, nobody's addressed how did Michael Jackson become a drug addict. You know, they've agreed to, Judge Pastor has agreed to allow Arnie Klein's medical records in. Good luck cross-examining medical records, but they're not going to allow Arnie Klein to come in. And as you know, in Jackson, there was a series of drugs and drug bottles that were taken out of Michael Jackson's home that were in other people's names that were prescribed by Arnie Klein. Clearly, Michael had the Pajama Day episode that everybody remembers, but the point is that he has a drug problem. He's had a drug problem for a very long time. How did he get to that point where this quantity of drugs that's being pumped into him to get him to go to sleep or to help him go to sleep, how come that's not being brought into this trial as a background? You know, again, the other day somebody mentioned his nanny, and the minute her name was brought up, everything was driven to a complete halt. Because the judge had said we can't go into her, we can't discuss anything about her. But the LAPD interviewed her. The LAPD gained information from her, and any information gleaned from that testimony, from that interview, from the nanny.
I assume you're talking about Grace Rowamba.
Okay, I'm trying not to use her name.
All right, okay.
But exactly.
Okay, but what about the whole theory that you shouldn't blame the victim? That Michael Jackson's a victim here, and it has nothing to do with what his background is. This is a doctor who, when you asked for propofol, he should have said no.
Right, and that has to do with the overall flavor of the case. The case is about negligence and gross negligence. The case isn't about the quantity of drugs. It was whether or not the drugs were administered in a malicious. Clearly, it was a negligent, but does it rise to the level of criminal negligence? No, not in my opinion, but clearly there's an issue of the negligence of the doctor. That's what this is about. Not about the type of drug, not the quantity of drug, but the fact is that you've already started off with your patient who's a drug dealer. I'm sorry, drug dealer. Who's a drug addict. Somebody who's a known drug addict.
And the family says that they don't